Profit maximizer number 4. Here's key, very important. You must get owner compensation right to know what your true pre-tax profit is. This applies to most small business owner. They have this illusion. You must get owner compensation right to know what your true pre-tax profit is. Because you are not your business. Repeat after me. I am not my business. You are an employee within your company. You're a CEO. You could be a VP of sales. But you're an employee within your company is a separate identity, yes? It's different. It's different. So most entrepreneurs misunderstand the relationship between their salary and the return what they own. Here's what I mean. They think in terms of, I don't know why, Ryan, you've seen this a lot, right? Like most business owners, somehow their salary is $36,000 a year, right? Why is that? Give him Mike. Why is that? Mike, yeah. How often you see that?
I probably see it too much. It's not good.
36 grand a year. Somehow that's the magic number.
Yeah, for some reason it's 36. It depends really, if it's for tax purposes, it depends if you're really actually paying yourself or your business. There could be a lot of different reasons why. But the main one is simply because a lot of people are just, they're working so hard, they're not taking a look at what they're doing with their company, and then they're paying themselves whatever's left. Right? And you can't survive like that. You can't.
Yeah, it's a good question because they think 36 because they want to minimize the amount of tax they pay, right?
Yeah.
So for years they work, I'll just do 36 grand. But that's a false assumption because as your company grows, this is what happens. You couldn't find someone to do what you do for 36 grand a year. You couldn't. For everything that you do? Yes? Yeah. No. You will not be able to find someone to do that. So you are paying yourself below market wage and gives you the false assumption that your business is okay. It is not okay because so if you think of how much would you want to actually, so imagine this. Actually, I have a question. So you get paid a salary for what you do, you get a return for what you own. So expand on that. So as a salary, I'm paying myself as a CEO, right? But also as a business, what's my profit? What's the return as a shareholder? Two different roles.
Yeah, and we see this a lot for private companies, which a lot of you are going to be running and what a lot of you are doing. So as Dan's saying, you will want to pay yourself as the CEO, but at the same time, you're also getting profits. So let's just use a very simplistic example. On the income statements on page 3, they have some profits there, okay? And let's just say they already paid themselves some salary in the salary expense.
Mm-hmm.
You're also entitled to those profits as well because you hold your own shares in your company.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can take some more profits out if you want because you retain earnings. There's some availability there. Perhaps maybe issue a dividend.
Dividends, yeah. Yeah, perfect. So two different roles. You getting it? Two different things. So first thing you got to think of, you got to pay yourself a market rate wage. Market rate wage, okay? Because in some point, if you want to replace yourself and have someone coming in your business to run the business, you need to pay them a fair salary. But if you've been keep paying 36 grand, you're not going to find somebody. And it gives you the false illusion that your business, well, I guess it's okay. It's not okay. Yeah, how come some CEOs pay themselves $1 a year?
It's primarily for tax reasons. That's mainly the main incentive as to why they're doing that. And
Yep.
also, depending on what's going on, they have stock options.
Yep.
There's other ways around that as well, and that's why I think $1 is in salary.
Yep.
Other ways get compensated, but probably more complicated than.
But for what we do,
Yeah.
to give ourselves the accurate picture of what's going on, do that. Does that make sense? Yeah. So most entrepreneurs think they're overpaying themselves, but at least what I believe, from my experience, 90% are underpaying themselves. They're not paying themselves enough. They're not paying themselves enough. They're paying 36 grand. Not enough. So let me ask you, how much would you want to pay yourself? Just yell out the number. How much would you think is fair compensation for yourself? 600 G, yes. 600 G? G is good. Nothing wrong with that. Yes. Yeah, in a year. How much? Or monthly, doesn't matter.
27 million a year.
27 million a year. Okay, good. Nothing wrong with that. No, seriously. For what you do, what's a fair compensation for yourself?
$1 million a year.
$1 million a year, yes. Yeah, 100 grand a year, but the profit more than that. Good. But as an employee, it's 100 grand. You think, right? So to a point where maybe you can bring someone to replace you to. Yeah, maybe a CEO or something and pay them the 100 grand so they could run, right? So then you get out, as a shareholder, you're getting a dividend, you're getting a profit, right? That's what I'm saying. You got to get your compensation right. So here's a good question. If you got run by a bus today, it's a very depressing question today. But it's to make you what? Think, yes. And your family decided that they would keep the business going in your absence. What would they have to pay for someone to do your job? What would they have to pay for someone to do your job? And it's going to be way more than 36 grand, probably more than 50 grand, right? Maybe more than, maybe it's 80 grand, maybe it's 100 grand, maybe it's 200 grand, whatever numbers you have in your mind. But know that number and get the compensation right. A business is like a cow, I was saying. Until you pay yourself a market-based wage and make a profit on top of that, you have a sick cow on your hands. Until you pay yourself a market-based wage and make a profit on top of that, and you have a sick cow on your hands. And for some of you, I know what I'm sharing tonight makes you a little uncomfortable and uneasy, and that's fucking awesome. Because then it means you might do something about it. Not looking at business, thinking is healthier than you think when you should have a sick cow in your hand. How many of you are going through some of these numbers, thinking about your business? Now you're going back and you look at your business, realize you need to make a lot more profit. You need to make a lot more profit than you think. A lot more than you think. Okay? So don't focus so hard on not paying taxes. Focus instead on increasing your profits. That's the main lesson. Many years ago, I talked to my mentor, Dan Pania, and I asked Dan, you know, I'm making more money, I'm paying more taxes. You know, I feel like shit, I'm writing some big checks, man, to Revenue Canada. And Dan looked at me and said, you know, kid, if you're worried how much taxes you're paying, you ain't making enough money. If you're worried how much taxes you're paying, you ain't making enough money. Some truth to that.
10 times your finances, 10 times your business, 10 times your marketing, 10 times your life. Hit the subscribe button now.